All right, y'all. We are back for episode 9 of Winning Time. Definitely enjoyed another great episode that they've given us. Definitely enjoyed our discussion with Rodney Barnes this week as well, the executive producer and writer for the show, and actor who we saw a few times in this episode. And definitely loved his appearance in the show and excited to talk about it all. So we appreciate you guys for tuning back in, and we'll get this thing rolling right now. All right, so yeah, as we said, we are back for Winning Time episode 9 reaction. Appreciate you guys for tuning back in. Appreciate all the love you guys have been showing us online on IG and TikTok at section.300, on Twitter at section sports. A lot of good stuff going on across the board. For all those watching on YouTube, subscribe to the show, and for those on Pocket Human Service, do the same for us as well there. And yeah, as we said, episode 9 is here and rolling. Piggybacking off of what we saw last week and kind of the setup they had for Magic and things going on with him and Jerry Buss and his mom and the things he's dealing with there, and Spencer Haywood, his issues, all of that we saw get looked at more in depth in this episode, and definitely enjoyed it all. Alec, you want to start at the top, or is there any other things that jumped at you want to address first?
I'll just say real quick to the point I had made in our last recap, and speaking with Rodney, I thought they did a great job once again of just diving deeper into like the humanity of these characters, specifically Dr. Buss and him even more so dealing with the decline of his mom and the eventual passing of his mom, and then also Spencer Haywood too touched on a little bit of his personal trauma and how that led him to the point he was struggling with drug addiction. So I thought it was another well done job by the show of diving into the humanity of these characters that we see as like larger than life.
Absolutely. I definitely wholeheartedly agree with you there. Enjoy how they continue to deep dive these things. And though they do have a comical approach at times, when it's time to get serious, they get busy. So I definitely enjoy how they have put it all together. And all of that has come with the show. So yeah, it definitely has been fun. Now, as we get into the details of it, episode 9 started off with the Lakers. I believe the first thing we saw was Jerry sitting down with management trying to figure out just the money side of things, and that the Lakers were still in the hole in regards to things that they owed to the bank and whoever else that they were vendors and whoever, and that the Lakers needed to win, continue to win and filling up the arena in order to pay back those that they needed to. And we would see fast forward real quick that they would do so. We started there and understanding. I'm glad that they continue to address that. In the midst of all the other storylines. I know that could have been lost in the mix as they continue to talk about Magic and everything else that was going on there, and Jerry Buss and his mom and other things that shifted in the story. But it started off with the Lakers have to win to keep this thing going. And I'm glad they continue to make that the starting point for where the show is. So definitely love that. And then we went into the coaching carousel that they had going on there. What do you think of Jack coming back in the mix and him trying to get back involved, get back on the staff and fiending to be on the sideline again?
Well, yeah, real quick to the money aspect too. It was like they were losing money from winning too. It was what they said initially. Because they got a first round bye, I think, from getting like the overall 1 seed or whatever.
Right.
So they were gonna lose money that they would have made off like playoff tickets first round. So for a second, I was like, are they gonna try to like tank or something a little bit?
They were taking back in the day too. That's crazy.
But yeah, so. Yeah, the money issue was still one that was hanging over their heads, and they had to win the finals essentially to get back in the green in their accounts. So, but as far as the coaching carousel, yeah, it continues to roll on. Jack McKinney is a angry old white man who didn't want to lose grip on his job and as head coach of the Lakers, and understandably so. But you could tell that he was damn near killing himself to try to get back on the court.
Yeah, it was interesting though in that, because I think they say he was cleared to coach at one point.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he probably pushed like the doctors to.
Yeah, he had to, but yeah, they said that, and I was like, "There's no way." We just saw him. Can't remember the dude's name at the store, and then we would see how things would transpire going forward as well with him. He was not in proper shape to coach, but was adamant that he deserved on the sideline still. And it put the management, Jerry Buss and others, in a bind trying to figure out how to handle this thing, because they wanted him first as their guy, and seeing that he was wanting to be back, it in a way made sense to bring him back. But seeing what Paul and Pat put together, it's like we kind of want to just ride this ship and let them keep doing what they're doing. So putting it in a tough spot, and Jerry Buss admitted in that moment. Or Jerry Buss admitted that he was in over his head. He was like, I don't know what to do at this moment. Like, this is my guy. These guys are doing good, and I just don't know what to do. And he actually deferred the decision to Jerry West. Like, Jerry West, what you think? And they just kept passing it back and forth. And they gave him a hot potato all episode of, you decide, now you decide, now you decide. All right, fine. Well, somebody will figure it out. So what do you think of Jerry Buss's inability to decide and Jerry West getting in the mix on the management side as well?
Well, I mean, I thought it showed that, like, as we've seen Jerry West in his older age, like, he's been part of the reason why some of these teams have been successful in the moves they've made to acquire big players or coaches or whatever, as far as working in the Warriors front office and working in the Clippers front office, like, going to all the California rivals of the Lakers, post the Lakers tenure.
Right.
But I like, as angry as he's been about his portrayal, like, they do show in here that people still look to him, like, for his decision-making abilities. So
can we talk about that real quick as well in regards to Jerry West and Magic and things? It's interesting how they keep coming out and saying things like that, and they're pushing back on how the show is depicted. But what they're saying just seems to fall in line with exactly what the show is showing. So it's like, you guys are not helping yourselves by continuing to talk. I mentioned a few episodes ago in the show, Kareem told Magic that silence isn't invisibility, is power, and how that was a powerful quote in that moment and could hold true even to today. They still are not following those words. They continue to chirp and bark back at all the depictions that are being shown in winning time, and it's only adding to the allure to the show and making fans being drawn more into it. It hasn't seemed like I haven't seen much discussion of the Magic documentary. Or other things going on, but clips that you see get posted on your timeline or whatever on occasion seem to be in sync still with the show. It's showing there. So it's very interesting how they are frustrated with their depiction, though it does seem to be spot on. I think it's just them actually looking in the mirror and being like, dang, is this who I really was? And struggling to accept that. So definitely has been a fun thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think Jerry West had a quote in the LA Times about, like, wanting to take the show to the Supreme Court. I was like, come on, bro.
No, I'm like, that's exactly what Jerry was saying in the show. I'm like, you're not helping yourself right now.
Come on, man. But I mean, like I said, a bit of a nod to him and, like, his decision-making ability as a front office executive. Like, Dr. Buss gave him the opportunity to make the very important decision as far as who they would go forward with head coaching. And he didn't necessarily give him the answer, but told him essentially to go with his gut and kind of do what got you to this point. So, and then Dr. Buss checked up on McKinney, and he couldn't see him for one, but he didn't even recognize his voice either. And he was like, that's curtains for me, buddy.
That was the decision right there. Once that happened, Jack Clay was deteriorating to the point about us seeing Rodney Barnes. Leading up to that moment, actually, Jack was in the building first and talking with Jerry West about what the decision would be. And they said they'll think about it. They sent Jack home, and he was walking through the tunnels to get back, and he damn near passed out, just struggling to remember where he was at first, and then falling to the floor in pain as he was heading to the exit. And as he almost got to the door, fell down and looked up again to see where he was at, and there stands Rodney Barnes, Maurice, like the voice of God, anyway, with how the light was shining over his head and things. And it was him like, yo, the exit's right here. Like, what you talking about? Like, just a few more steps and all of that. He would go home. And then to your point about the deterioration of him, while we saw glimpses of it, his wife was saying how she saw it in full, and how while he is fighting hard for the Lakers to get back to the job, he's not fighting enough just to be healthy for his family. And she was really bothered by that. And it just showed how consumed he got by the team. I think it's a common trend with a couple guys on that squad. They got so consumed with basketball that they ignored or didn't care enough about what was going on elsewhere. That we'll talk about later on as well. I thought that was a very powerful scene. Her talking to him, and in the very next moment, him going to the door and being faced with Jerry Buss and having no clue who it was. Like, who am I looking at right now? Kept calling for her to sign some papers. Like, and Jerry Buss had to accept, like, Yes, he may have been cleared to coach, but this guy cannot be on the sidelines for us to make this push right now. And that was the end. So definitely was an amazing way that he handled the situation, and enjoyed watching it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You want to go into the Dr. Buss's mother?
Before I get there, just while on the coaching things real quick, I also just want to talk about the opposite side real quick. While we looked at McKinney and what he was going through, on the other side, Paul and Pat were like, "Yo, like we got y'all here. Like don't turn your backs on us." Pat Riley had a quote exactly that was like, "Last thing they should do is fuck with chemistry. Like, hey, we set this up, we kept it rolling. Appreciate Jack for setting us up here and getting the ball rolling. But we got it to where we are now, and we deserve to be able to maintain it through the end." So. I enjoyed the Game of Thrones that continued.
Absolutely. I was gonna say I was like a tad bit disappointed because I thought we were gonna get like a little bit more of like Godfather Riley, because he was like, I'm gonna go in there and tell him, like,
that would have been.
They knew that Jack McKinney wasn't in good shape,
right?
So he was like, Paul Westhead didn't want to tell management, but
Pat
Riley was like, I'm gonna go tell him. And then
like,
right before I can't do it. But I was like, dang, I thought we were gonna get like some Godfather Riley moments.
That definitely was. That could have been a great start to the story. Even seeing that he was even thought about taking that route, I think still gives glimpses that Godfather side was in him, and we would see it manifested later on. So definitely enjoyed that. Also, just another thing that just popped in my head, just as we're watching it, it was just interesting to me that a decision had to be made in general. Like there are a couple of times when you watch the games when it was just Pat and Paul on the sidelines, or it was just Pat on the sidelines during that one game when Paul was out. Just the fact that back in the day, in the 80s or whatever, they only had two coaches or whatever on the sideline handling. I don't know how accurate that was.
Yeah, there's probably a couple more.
There's probably a couple more, of course. But seeing how short the coaching staff was back in the day compared to now, now we take a look at the Lakers, maybe not this year, but last year, we had Frank Vogel and Jason Kidd and Hollins and all these guys, all these head coaching type guys all on the same roster and put together a championship squad. But back in the day, if you had more than one head coach type A type guy on the team, somebody had to go. So it was wild that they had the decision to begin with.
I think a major part of why you couldn't like just bring him back in like an assistant role or something is one, because it was his team originally. So then you're going to have the issue of the power dynamics of him still thinking it's his team, even though these guys led them to 50 wins and all that. But then also like the media, it may not have been like as extreme as it is today because we didn't have social media back then, but the media was probably going to be hounding them about like the decision to bring him back if they then brought him back and he was like an assistant as well too. So they probably did have to make a choice, one or the other, and ultimately made the right one and the best one, because he obviously, as we saw, was unfit to take back the mantle. So
of course, I totally get that. I was just acknowledging how the game has changed over time and seeing the difference and all that went into it. So definitely was an interesting thing. And as you said, they made the right decision and enjoyed the basketball that came with it. But again, sticking to before we get on the court, we'll stay off the court and things that are going on there. Jerry West had a lot on his plate in regards to managing the team that we said to start the episode, and then to making this decision, as we also said, and then most importantly on his plate was handling how his mother, who was dying in front of his eyes, he didn't want to accept it. I think he brought a doctor, I believe, or whoever that was, to a party to the Forum Club, and they were in there talking. And as a friend, the doctor was like, "Hey, I'm just trying to be as honest with you as I can be. As a doctor, I'm looking at you like, hey, I've seen the situation happen many times before, and she is not doing well, and you need to make the most of your time as you can with her while she's here." And
he was talking to him like Doctor Strange. He was like, "We're in the end game now."
Right, this is the end game, whatever. And in that kind of way, I kind of get Jerry's reaction, but at the same time, like I also get wanting to give some kind of warning if things do go awry. So it was a tough talk to have for the doctor, but he tried his best to have it, and Jerry didn't receive it positively at all. At least it seemed in the moment when he reacted to him, he didn't accept the words and flipped on him and all of that. But you could see after the fact when he went and saw his mother that it seemed like he took those words to heart and was trying his best to live the most with his mother while he could. They were playing card games and went out to whatever and we're having a good time and until her last moment. So what did you think of Jerry and his mother's dynamic in this episode?
Yeah, that was a tough like emotional side of things. I thought they handled the emotional aspect of it well, just with him again, still reckoning with her decline, and then now being faced with that she's days, months. He didn't know how long, but like the doctor said that she's basically in the end game like of her life. And he did initially not react well to that news, but like you said, he did kind of take it to heart as him and Jeannie and his mom like went to break into their old spot where they would break into when they were poor and he was growing up, an abandoned pool. So I think he just tried to make the most of the moments that he had left, like the doctor was telling him to. And him and Jeannie kind of had like different ways of responding to how their mother and grandmother was declining. And you could kind of see that even in the conversations that they had. Like he was trying to reminisce on the great times, and she's like a little bit of like a harder exterior, but like also trying to still like get like wisdom from her as far as the job that she wants for the Lakers, which I'm sure we'll talk about. So it was I just think that whole like personal side was handled really well, because that's not stuff that we really knew too much about unless we dove deep into the books and that kind of thing. So
definitely love that dynamic and how they portrayed that. Also, in a step back, as we have talked about just in regards to the show in general and how they shot the show, how they break the fourth wall and things at times. Going back to the conversation with the doctor after they finished talking and Jerry was mad and punched the camera. I love that scene. And then fast forwarding, as you said, with them and by the pool talking and all of that. Enjoy how they display all of that as well. And it definitely was some emotional scenes that they put together there. There was just that I just still enjoyed just watching. So it was just a very good episode they put together, and enjoyed that parts of it as well. So to your point, one of her last words were, I think as you said, just talking about the Lakers winning and wanting to see them win a championship and staying around for that. While she didn't actually make it that far, she did hold on throughout some of the playoff run. And while she was in the hospital, Lakers did have that success and were going on their ways. And Jerry was, instead of being in the stadium for that, was watching by her side. I just thought that brought some humanity to Jerry, and enjoyed just seeing all that came with it. So I really think they have nailed Jerry Buss's all of his character on all angles in this show, and continue to be just amazed by all they're putting together here. So definitely fun things there. And then you want to stick with the deep stuff and go to Spencer now, or you want to bounce around to some other things first and come back to it?
I can stick with Spencer.
Okay, then so we'll stick off the court with some more of the big storylines of the episode. Spencer Haywood, as we discussed, was a major part. They got a glimpse into that last episode with him and his possible, very jokingly, you said the last time, the Lamar Odom-esque turn.
It was very much Lamar Odom-esque.
And the things that he was possibly dealing with. They addressed that much more head on this episode and showed more of what he was dealing with. And though he had promised Kareem that he would stay clean through the rest of the season, he clearly had some relapses and was just fiending to get back to those things that he was using to deal with whatever pains and things that he was dealing with during the season and just over his life, as a sad way to cope. And it was weighing heavy on him. And it led to him having a couple of bad episodes on the court. He damn near froze on the court.
And I was like, he often perked 30s at practice.
Mid practice, just zoned out, just like lost. And I think that Michael Cooper was like, "Yo, like, hey, you up? Like, what's going on?" It took him a second. He snapped on him. And then he lost. He dropped one of his pills in the bathroom. Was calling on the bathroom. Dude came in like, "Hey, I just borrowed your scissors and rap real quick." He went and tried to beat up the dude for stealing his rap. It was just he clearly was feeling the effects of the drugs and things he was using. And it led to the Lakers having to make a decision rather than Paul and Pat making the call. Seeing that Kareem wanted him from the beginning, we saw his embrace of Spencer from the jump, and that was his guy. They deferred the decision to the team and let the team make the call. And the team made a decision, and guys were split. There were a few guys, I guess, to our point before about some guys separating the on and off court things. Magic was like, "Hey, I just want to win a ring. Like, hey, y'all figure that out."
Yeah. Then he ultimately voted for him to be off the team too.
Right, he voted for him to be off the team. Norm Nixon had strong words about the situation, about him just
very strong words,
very strong words about that. So it definitely was interesting to see how they handled that. And the deciding decision came down to Kareem. And it was interesting to me that I don't think. Well, it was clearly assumed, but Kareem didn't actually say like, "Hey, I voted you off," but just the way they were talking.
He said it though himself.
I think so. Yeah.
He said I was the deciding vote. That's when that's when Spencer Haywood got up and got mad, but
out. Right. So for a minute, I just had to say, not a minute. There was a quick second when he was talking, where at least from my eyes, I thought his eyes were going to kind of lighten up. He was going to say, "Nah, I decided to keep you on." But I read that wrong. But he clearly was off the team, and it was another emotional scene episode. Leading into that moment with him saying that, we got a great monologue from Wood Harris, who's playing Spencer Haywood. I mentioned a few times that you don't have a guy that's as great of an actor as him, and just have him do a couple quick cameos like that. Right. I was waiting for some more of these great scenes from him, and we definitely have gotten some of the last few episodes. I love the monologue we got about his upbringing and how he came up, and the I forgot exactly what words he used. Just waiting for the whistle, the guy that was whistling, and his family, and all they endured, and how that may have led to where he is today. And I just it was a very powerful scene, and sad what it resulted in on Spencer's part. What did you think of Spencer and all that went with him this episode?
Yeah, I think initially when he had that episode at practice and they kind of confronted him, he said he was going to stop, and it seemed like he did clean up for a while. They showed him cleaning off all the drug paraphernalia and that kind of thing. But then he relapsed towards the end of the episode, and that's the scene you're talking about where they kind of had to make a decision whether or not to keep him on the team it was really just going to be for the finals run, and then try to get him some rehab, that kind of thing. But
give us 2 more weeks.
Yeah, that probably wasn't going to work out the best. He was saying he would promise to stay clean for those couple weeks, but I think ultimately they kind of knew the writing was on the wall there,
right?
And Pat made that final decision. It was an emotional scene when he was Spencer Haywood was talking about his trauma from his background growing up, and kind of how it shaped his view on racism as well too, because he initially when Cap walked in, he made it a remark about the white man or something like that, and and was trying to say I know it wasn't your decision kind of thing, and Cap was no, I was the deciding vote. But it was powerful and kind of sad to see how Spencer Haywood kind of spiraled. I don't know all of his history just in real life, I'm sure he did deal with drug addiction, but just how it went for him, was he able to recover and that kind of thing. But it was a powerful, sad scene there for sure.
Definitely. And just continuing to show the humanity, the good and bad of all these players. Definitely has been tough in some regards, but I've appreciated them deep diving what has gone on fully with this team, and just continuing to enjoy the show in full. So definitely was a wild thing to see going with him, and just to see how it continued to spiral after the decision was made. And the final scene was him saying, "Hey, I need a gun to go after the Lakers." I don't know how accurate that was, but just a glimpse into how bad he was out of himself. That was just wild to see.
Right, so it ended. You know how crazy you gotta be to say you want to kill an organization. He said, "I want to kill the Lakers."
He's like, "Who do you need this for?" He's like, "The Lakers."
Not 102 people. He said the Lakers.
Everybody. Come on, man. So I was just taken aback by that. But again, I think it was just meant to show how bad he was out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think much. I don't know what more will come from that part. I think that was just
well,
to
we
show,
know he didn't kill the Lakers,
right? Of course, but just to say, knowing that, I don't know his full story and what resulted from there.
Right.
But yeah, just seeing his spiral was definitely wild to see. And just all that was going on off the court while the Lakers were trying to become this all-time great team that they were. It's been amazing to see. So great things there. Then the person we haven't talked about in full yet, Magic, and seeing what goes on with him.
He wasn't as highlighted in this episode. It was more so.
You ain't see him drinking that milk in the middle of the episode.
Absolutely. I was gonna say he had about 4 respectable young white women with him there.
And then, if you can't have milk,
cookies.
You can't have cookies without the milk, man. You got can't have the cookie without the milk.
Wait, did you get that off Twitter or something? Or did you?
I just get it up right now. I just said it right now. I'm sure it's on there somewhere. But man,
I didn't even think about that.
The fact that
science.
You see what's going on. But again, to see that he was laying there with all those girls during that whole night and whatever went on, and then in the middle of that, like, oh, I gotta call Cookie. Like, you're horrible.
Said none of them are you though.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I'm out there in the streets, but none of them can replicate you.
Yeah, that was a real bad look. But it seemed to show who Magic was, and he was still living his lavish lifestyle, even while trying, even with all the other things that were going on
around. On the panties, just threw it in the drawer.
With all the other ones. Number was on there. I got her saved for later on. Keep that there. It was real nasty work from Magic. What do you think of how he continues to handle things and the dynamic between him and Cookie?
Yeah, I mean, he does a good job of like being the Hollywood man, like smiling for the cameras. And
real quick, I'm sorry. To our point about the documentary as well that he was putting out. There was the part of the documentary, I saw a clip that got posted online, and Cookie was talking like, "Yeah, Mag didn't make it easy for me. It was, it was real."
Yep.
It was real hard to get him to fall in line, and I was like, all right, see, Magic, like, I don't want to hear no complaints about the show.
Now, I will say, to her credit, like, there probably are a lot of like NBA wives like now that kind of know this stuff, like about their husband, like know how they kind of operate on the road and still kind of like hold them down regardless of they know how they be acting in these streets. So like on that front, you could say she's a real one on that end for sticking with them.
I guess.
Because she probably knew, like, she knew Magic Johnson. Like, she knew him back home. So she knew it was just an elevated level once he got to the NBA.
Exactly.
But yeah, she was still done dirty, regardless of if she knew or not. Like,
very much so.
Dirty.
So yeah, that was definitely a wild thing. I was interested though. I will say they mentioned it for a quick second and just moved on from it. I mentioned last week about the Rhonda and how that was probably a depiction of another person that was real life involved with Magic, and I believe that they had a child, and at least from what I read about Magic's family and his children and things. But in the show, they said Rhonda had I think a miscarriage or wasn't having the baby.
Oh, I missed that.
On the phone. When he called Cookie, he left a message and said Rhonda isn't having the baby or something like that. So I don't know if he was lying about that to hide the child or wherever the case was, but they said that in the episode, and I was like, wait, I thought this was supposed to represent somebody else who he actually did have a child with. So he said, I had to call. He said Rhonda lost the baby, and I was like, I don't know how that works, but we'll see how things come back around in that. And if Cookie believes that and they work it out, then I mean we saw him work it out. But it was just wild things from Magic and the games that are being played on and off the court there. So definitely wild to see that side of him, but also on the court. And we talked about in the last episode him locking in and talking to Jerry West and saying how much he really wants to win. And the happy side is while it is who he is. There's also the internal side of him really wanting to win as well. And him showing that, and him being right before the finals, gearing up and being in the gym and working on his skyhook for whatever reason.
He put in the work for sure. Like he put in the work in the streets as well. But he put in the work off the court.
Hardworking man right there. Definitely. So he was doing that, working on on that move in the gym, and Kareem walked in and showed them how to really get it done. And enjoyed watching that, especially coming from where we saw it start, where Kareem didn't want to really embrace Magic at all, and their lack of chemistry to start. What do you think of Kareem and Magic starting to bond as the season has finally gone on?
Yeah, I thought it was dope to see they had that moment where I think it was when they won probably the conference finals, where he like finally got like Kareem to smile too.
Right.
And like he talked about how after that first game when they won on the buzzer beater, Kareem hit the hook, and Magic was saying like or Kareem said to him that we got 81 more of these, and Magic was like, well, I'm gonna hug you 81 more times if you keep making those shots. And Kareem basically was telling Magic that he grew on him, like he gained like a level of respect for him, and just the style of play like also grew on him, just sharing the ball and not just working through the post, but ball movement, like McKinney kind of brought them the Showtime style. So it was dope to see that Kareem kind of softened on them a little bit, and they developed that chemistry throughout the season, and it would continue obviously as they built the dynasty. So
definitely. So yeah, again, just love seeing how all of Showtime got put together, seeing how the stars bonded in the midst of it all. It has been great, and have loved again all that has come with winning time. So excited for all of that, and yeah, what else you have to say?
One last thing, because I mentioned it, but we kind of skipped over it. Just important part too was Jeannie finding her footing and figuring out like what she wanted to do, whether she wanted to take that Lakers job that her father was kind of passing over her on. I forget. I think it was in the preview for next episode where he says to her about bringing in her brothers and seeing which one wants to take over, and she's like, "I want that job." Like,
give me that. Don't play around. You know what time it is.
It was cool to see her talking about like how she wanted to be. What's her name? Is it like Barb? I forget what her name is. The female executive.
I forgot. I look it up if you want.
I'm blanking on what her name is, but basically how she wanted to be her. Like she wanted to be an executive for
Rothman. Claire Rothman.
Yeah, Claire. Yeah, she wanted to be a executive like Claire. And so it was cool to see like her like figuring out herself and who she wanted to become, and how like eventually she would go on to take it over. You see the elements of her dad that she had in her. She's not just the like daddy's girl who like just wants to ride off of his laurels. Like she wants to have some power and control too. She has vision as well. So that was cool to see.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed that. That was going to be the thing I went to next, just a preview of the next episode. And seeing the rise of Jeannie, how she was ready for that role. Definitely looking forward to that. I'm seeing the role she's already stepping into and how she's becoming the great woman that know her to be and all of that. Definitely excited for that next. And also, we're getting to see more of the basketball, getting back to the court. Magic and Kareem versus the Sixers and Dr. J, seeing more of that come back around in that storyline. Definitely excited for that. I'm also with that. Them bum-ass Celtics couldn't get to the finals. That was great to see. Larry Bird looking in the camera at the end when he's walking up at the loss. Now, I'll see you soon, or whatever he says.
Like, same time next year.
Whatever. Yeah, definitely enjoyed that. So, yeah, that was good to see that they that Larry Bird choked that one away, and seeing Jerry get past him.
Like dumbass Braun couldn't meet up with Kobe in the finals.
Man, just couldn't get it together. But they would in the future, unlike LeBron and Kobe. But interesting to see that Bird had failed to get there, but still was getting all the praise, and that dynamic between the media still giving all the love to Larry Bird there, but not giving Magic his just due still. Right. And Kareem saying your time is coming, just wait. So again, I just enjoyed all that came with the episode. Episode 9 was great. Episode 10, I'm excited for. I believe that's the season finale for the episode for the first season. We talked Rodney Barnes, who we mentioned was in the show and writer and all of that last week. Make sure you check that out. He said that season 2 is gearing up, and then they're putting that all together right now. So we're definitely going to be back discussing that season as well as that unfolds. Hoping to talk to some more guys from the show as well as that continues on. And just continue to love all things from Winning Time. So that's all I got for today. Alec, you have anything else?
Yeah, I expect them to end it with a bang.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking forward to that. We'll see what more comes for Circle. Again, we talked with Rodney, Mr. Barnes, about the very opening scene of the show with magic and things.
Right.
Again, I wasn't sure how they would get to that point again in one season.
Yeah.
Maybe that's gonna be something that comes in season 2 or beyond. But if there is some connection to that now, I'm just to see how it all pieces together. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to what's to come this next episode and all that's on the way with Winning Time. So great things here. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Again, subscribe to the show online for those watching on YouTube or across podcast streaming services. Follow us online on IG and TikTok at section.300. Follow us on Twitter at Section of the Sports. We'll get some clips out. I'm sure you'll see more of the cookie in the milk coming soon. And looking forward to all that's on the way. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in, man. Appreciate y'all. We out of here. Peace, man.
Deuces.